Hiya! Welcome! It's Minidisc Monday number 40, and with a milestone edition comes a new weekly mini-series within a series. Yes, 2 weeks ago I promised that today would be the start of July's Oasis month here on Minidisc Monday. I've reviewed 2 other Oasis albums in the past. The double live album, Familiar to Millions, that was my very first Minidisc Monday review. Please go back and check that out in the MD Monday playlist. And similarly, and rather more recently, I also reviewed the B-sides compilation, The Master Plan. So I've got 4 Oasis albums still to review on Minidisc. And what with this being July and it's Oasis's comeback month, at least at the time of me recording, it's still going ahead. I'm trying not to do this too far back in advance, but also not that close to the actual date itself. Anyway, every Monday this month, we're going to look in chronological order at Oasis's first 4 studio albums and the remaining 4 that I have on MD. And we'll talk a bit about the mini discs and the band and the songs, of course. And you know what we're kicking off with today. Of course, it's the debut album from those lads in Burnage, Manchester. This is Definitely Maybe. Well, as an album, as a debut, as kind of like a real sort of signpost for the rise of Britpop, what more can I really say about Definitely Maybe? It celebrated its 30th anniversary last year, had a big reissue campaign around the time that the tour announcements, the reunion announcements were starting as well, so nice bit of probably deliberate coincidence there. I own 3 copies of this now. I've owned this mini disc version here for quite some years. I bought a special 30th anniversary Blood Records exclusive edition on vinyl last year, and then also I got the album on DVD. Weirdly, I've got the DVD cheap on Discogs for the documentary really, but it has the music videos and it also has the full album. I've not listened to the full album that way, as I'd only be able to listen to it via my TV speakers. Anyway, we're talking about the MD today, and this is quite an anomaly in my mini disc collection because this is the only American issue mini disc I've got in my whole collection. Now, when I was doing my research on Discogs earlier on, this came out in Europe under the Helter Skelter label, UK obviously under the Creation label. This US version is on the Epic label, which was Oasis's US label. It was a subsidiary of Sony, so it made sense that they would be signed to a Sony subsidiary in America as well as the rest of the world. And it's just a weird one for me, this, because America and Minidisc just never really met, to be honest. It was a format that struggled here in the UK and in Europe. I'm actually quite surprised there wasn't a version of Definitely Maybe on MD come out in Japan, because Oasis did have a sizable following over there, and Japan is the country where Minidisc really had its most success. But my assumption is, and it is just me assuming, that at this early stage in Oasis's career, Sony in Japan didn't put out at least this album on Minidisc, as they wouldn't know if it would sell very well, but Oasis did become really big over there in the Far East. So this being an Epic release, there will be some slight differences. As you can see, we've got the Epic logo on the spine there. Other than that, it just looks like a standard mini disc that you'd get anywhere in UK or Europe really. No difference with the case, but we've got the disc there with the artwork on that side. Flip it over, and interestingly enough, it's actually got the UK copyright information. So whether I've got kind of like a hybrid here, I've got the case for an American one, but the actual disc is the British one. I don't know. I've had this for years and I've always just assumed, because maybe I've not looked at this side close enough, that it's been the US edition all throughout. But this does look, what with the creation catalogue number on there, this does look like the UK disc, but I don't know. They might have just reused the UK information on American pressings, I'm not sure. So we've got a little booklet here. Yeah, you can tell that this is the American one. It's got a little bit of a paragraph here that says this Minidisc was manufactured to meet critical quality standards. If you believe this disc has a manufacturing defect, please call our quality management department at, and then it's a 1-800 number, obviously 1-800 being US, and then for some reason it says New Jersey residents should call a number beginning 609. Folds out either side. Nice condition this. We also got the Epic logo at the back of the booklet there again as well to differentiate, but like I say, having closely inspected the disc itself, it could be the UK issue inside the American package, but just for the sake of continuity, if nothing else, I will carry on assuming that this is my only American release mini disc in my collection. As for the album, well, let's go through the tracks. It is a great album. It's a lot of people's favourite Oasis album still. In some ways, yes, it kind of was their best. In a way, I prefer others, but we'll get onto that in coming weeks here on the series. But track number 1, Rock and Roll Star. It sounds like it's going to be a single, that really, and they even performed it on Top of the Pops. Hopefully you will have seen a clip of that earlier on in the video, but it never came out as a single, at least not in the UK. It may have had some limited release elsewhere in the world. What an opener, really, that's all I can say. Shaker Maker, the second single, of course, that famously riffs on I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing by the New Seekers. Oasis, of course, would get a reputation for borrowing riffs and melodies from other earlier acts, of course, but always loved that track. Live Forever, their breakthrough single, you could argue, because it was their first top 10 hit. It was the third single from this album, and remains an anthem to this day. Up in the Sky, great track again, not a bad track on the album yet, and there probably won't be one full stop really. That's why this is considered one of the greatest of all time. Columbia is track number 5. That was really the song, I think, that kicked off Oasis really. They sent out like a white label demo of Columbia before this album came out, so you would assume that Columbia may have been mooted as a single at one point, but it never came out as a single. Good track, not one of my favourites on the album, but there again, not bad whatsoever. Supersonic, the debut single, comes next at track 6. Excellent stuff. Bring It On Down is one that is very good without me being absolutely thrilled by it. Track 8, Cigarettes and Alcohol, of course, that nicks the riff from Get It On by T-Rex, but Noel Gallagher didn't really care about nicking riffs, certainly back then, and for many years after, it has to be said. Number 9, Diggs' Diner. I always thought it was Diggs' Dinner. I don't know if that's a misprint, but I'll call it Diggs' Diner, as that's what it says on the back case here. The lyrics are kind of silly, as you know, if you're an Oasis fan and you've listened to this album many times like I have. Track 10, Slide Away. That's one of my favourites on the album. In fact, it's probably up there, sort of top 2 or 3 for my favourites. Great track. It was reused for some reason as a B-side for, I think, Whatever, when that came out as a single at the end of '94, which seemed a little bit wasteful really, as Oasis being so consistent with their B-sides. You'd have thought they'd have one in the can, a new one, rather than reusing an old album track really, but it doesn't matter because Slide Away is exceptional, really. And ends with Married with Children, maybe named after the sitcom of the same name, who knows. Quite a sort of light vocal from Liam there. I don't think he really sounds as sort of casual, if for want of a better term, as he does on this, really, ever again. Produced by Oasis and Mark Coyle. Famously, this album went through some production difficulties. They'd been to 1 or 2 studios, basically recorded the thing, weren't happy with the production and the sound, and eventually Mark Coyle came in and just kind of turned everything up, multi-layered instrumental tracks and everything, and a masterpiece was born. So yeah, a fantastic album. I do think personally Oasis have done better, but I completely abide by the opinions of those who say, yeah, definitely maybe was their best. It was their first and they haven't bettered it. That's your opinion if you've got that opinion, or you might think that the next one, which we'll look at next Monday of course, was even better. But there we go. Thank you for watching this first edition of Minidisc Monday here within Oasis month. All throughout July, one a week, every Monday we'll be looking at another Oasis album, so you know what's coming next for Minidisc Monday number 41. I want to say special thanks to my wonderful subscribers and generous patrons. I'm going to go now, and please will you join me again in just 7 days time for the next exciting Oasis month flavoured instalment of Minidisc Monday. Cheers everyone. See ya!